listening to True Crime IRL, True Crime in Real Life, and I'm your host, Kelli BERENS-BRINK. And this is an interview with Spencer Coursen, security expert and author of the new book, The Safety Trap. Hey everybody, here I am again, just totally gushing to you about the amazing time I had at CrimeCon 2021 in Austin, Texas. As I said in last week's episode, I was able to do some amazing interviews and meetups while I was there. Last week, I shared the interview that I did with Carly Bodine, whose mother, Karen Bodine, was brutally murdered in 2007 in what is still an unsolved cold case. So be sure to listen to that episode. And now, in this episode, I'm shifting gears a little bit and I'm sharing my interview that I did with Spencer Coursen, which I also did live at CrimeCon. So this interview deviates a little bit from my normal discussion of, murder mysteries and cold cases, and we were able to share a little bit more of a lighthearted conversation, and that was really nice change of pace there. So Spencer recently released his new book called The Safety Trap. And in this book, Spencer discusses the fact that, although the times we live in are truly safer than ever before, that presumed safety can also give us a false sense of security. Topics of the book range from, home security options to keeping your kids safe. And he urges all of us not to depend on others for our own safety, but he shows us that the everyday person can actually shoulder that responsibility on our own, and he shows us how to do that. Spencer Coursen's CrimeCon sessions were very informative and entertaining. He's actually kind of a funny guy, but don't tell him I told you that. And he kept the CrimeCon audiences totally engaged with his real-world, relevant advice and anecdotes. If you missed him at CrimeCon 2021 in Austin, you'll definitely need to catch him at CrimeCon 2022 in Vegas. So, without further ado, here's my interview with Spencer Coursen, security expert and author of The Safety Trap, in stores now. So, Spencer, just take a moment and introduce yourself to my audience and tell them a little bit about yourself.
My name is Spencer Coursen. I am a threat management expert, founder of Coursen Security Group, and author of The Safety Trap.
How many years have you been going to CrimeCon?
This is only my second CrimeCon. First one was in, where were we? In New Orleans? And then I was helping out the organizers who are personal friends of mine, and they asked me if I would be willing to help them out with some of the security protocols, help them vet the security managers that were going to be overseeing the event, and then they asked me to help look after the protection needs of the Dateline crew when they were in town. Well, obviously last year it was supposed to be in Orlando, and I was going to help them out with that. Maybe have a presentation with Jason, but that wound up getting canceled because of COVID. And then here we are in the sweet state of Texas, in my hometown of Austin, and it's an absolute privilege to have CrimeCon here, and it was even a better privilege to have this be the home of my very first Safety Trap presentation. Got to do my very first in-person book signing, got to give a couple speeches, got to do a couple meet and greets, got to meet some really great and fascinating people, and it's just been a true pleasure.
Okay, so CrimeCon is it's more of a true crime thing, like people telling their true crime stories, their stories about serial killers and murderers. So it's definitely more of a true crime thing. So tell me how you fit into that true crime scene.
It is a true crime thing. But isn't that the interesting thing about true crime? So I think one of the things in my book, I talk about how awareness plus preparation equals safety. And the way I kind of frame the book is by identifying each one of these, quote unquote, safety traps that we all fall into: avoidance, complacency, overconfidence, false equivalence, what have you. And each one starts off with an anecdote. Here's what happened. Here's how it was allowed to happen. And then here's 5 things that you can do to keep it from happening to you. But I think one of the reasons so many of us find true crime stories and murder mysteries and those kind of things so fascinating is because even though the likelihood of those things happening to us is so low, we're still fascinated by, well, what were the pre-incident indicators? What were the warning signs? Like, when you're watching like a horror movie and like the co-ed's in the kitchen and then the bad guy comes in through the back door, and instead of running out the door that was right behind her, she like runs up the steps to like hide under her parents' bed.
You're screaming at the TV like no,
right.
Don't do that. Yeah.
So it's like we kind of think like, well, listen, like the likelihood of this happening to me is very low, but maybe, like just maybe, if I learn how she got herself into trouble, I can use those same protective takeaways to keep that bad thing from happening to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's part of my fascination with true crime right there.
Yeah. And so like true crime documentaries or stories or podcasts, it's all about exploring, because we're fascinated by those things that we're most interested in but experience the least. And so much of safety is preparedness. It's because like we're never fearful of the things we're prepared to handle. Like, no one fears that which they know well. Like, we don't mind being a little bit afraid of something, because if we're afraid of something, that means we're prepared to deal with it. Like, everyone's a little bit afraid when they drive, but they're prepared to handle those risks because they know how to use their mirrors, they know how to turn, they know how to drive, they know how to maneuver the car effectively. But if you put that same person into a NASCAR race car and told them that they had to go 200 miles an hour around a track that's on a 15-degree pitch, their heart rate's going to go through the roof their first time around the track, because they're not stress inoculated into that scenario, even though it's very similar to like the mechanics of the car, no different than they otherwise would be our own personal vehicle.
And it's kind of exhilarating too. That's why people are adrenaline junkies, whether it's, the thrill of a haunted house at Halloween or bungee jumping or just a scary true crime story. It's exciting.
But here's the thing: you put that person in the driver's seat of that rally car. The first time they go around the track, their heart rate's going to be at like 160 degrees. You're going to think they just did a freaking cardio kickbox class. Second time around the track, probably about the same. But the 15th time around the track, now they've got the feel for it. Now they're more comfortable. 100th time around the track, probably half of what it was. Their 10,000th time around the track, you're like you and me sitting here, no different whatsoever.
You get like desensitized to the shock value of things like that after a while, yeah. Kind of like people get desensitized to the violence in a true crime story. You just get used to something and it's like, yeah, not a big deal. Okay, so one thing you are good at is like looking at a situation, assessing where it kind of went wrong or fell apart, and then what you would do differently to make the outcome different. You do that in your book, and you did that on stage at CrimeCon in your practical tactical sessions. So I want to look at this case that I find interesting. I've covered it in True Crime IRL. I covered it in episode 18, and it's kind of a nationally known case, Molly Tibbetts. So just to familiarize you with that, Molly, in the summer of 2018, she was a runner. She was running and she got murdered by someone who was kind of like stalking her and following her around. Unfortunately, she would not be found for 5 weeks. And when she was found dead in a cornfield. So if people want to listen to the episode, they can, like I said, go back to episode 18. I go into a little more detail about the case, but you can Google the case and see everything you need to know. But I just am like, as a woman who is on the go a lot alone, I worry about stuff like this. Like, I worry about keeping myself safe. I worry about being out at night or in an isolated area. And I don't want to end up like Molly did, as bad as that sounds. Like, what can you suggest? What advice can you give us to not be a victim, like in the Molly Tibbetts case?
Okay. Was that the first time? How did he know her?
He did not know her. He was a migrant worker, like a farm hand.
But he had seen her running before.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
He thought she was hot.
Yeah. So that's always how it happens though, right? There's someone, what is that like scene in Silence of the Lambs? He's like, what do we covet? What we see every day. If you don't know about it, you don't know you want it.
True. Okay. Yeah.
But if he's a migrant worker and I don't know the specifics of this particular case, but if he was like a day worker somewhere and every day saw her run by and like kept looking forward to it every day, and then like, you know, those people, and we've all done it, whether it's like in high school or college, where it's like, you know, that like that the hot person in class or whatever like walks past their locker at a certain time, so you make sure that you walk past your, right? That's fine when it's like the innocent types of you're learning how to court, right? And you're learning how to flirt, and you're like the sexual dynamics of teens, and you don't really know what you're doing, and everyone's feeling each other out, and that's when that's appropriate. When that starts spilling over into like the adult world, that's called stalking.
Is it really though?
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Well, no, but here's the thing, is that let's say that I go to Whole Foods at like 5 o'clock on a Saturday after the gym, and there is just this absolutely gorgeous girl at Whole Foods at that time. You know, maybe she was working at Whole Foods, and I go in the next day at 5 o'clock to see if she's there, and she's not, right?
So that's...
But like,
that's stalking.
No, that's like a you are now so infatuated with someone that you don't even know that you're going to change up your own personal routine just for the chance to see someone. Okay, so when we talk about the baseline of behavioral anomalies, that would be like a level 1, right?
Level 1 stalking?
I would call it like a level 1 anomaly.
Oh, anomaly. Okay.
Right? Like it's not.
I call it a crush.
So crushes are different. Crushes are like someone that like every time you see that person, but you're not going out of your way to see that person. If you have the choice to see one person or another person, you may choose, but it's like, but you may have always gone shopping at 2 o'clock, and on that one particular day when you were coming home from the gym and realized that you were out of like salad mix for dinner that night, you went in at 5 o'clock, and now you're willing to reprioritize your entire life's agenda in the off chance that you might get to see someone. Then if you do get to see that someone and that practice is reinforced, how far are you going to take that, right? Yeah. Because this person does not know who you are. No. This person has no clue. They have, you know what I mean? Now, is it one of those things where if you're out at a bar and you make eye contact with someone, right? And then you make eye contact again, go up and say hi to that person, because like they obviously want to meet you. And even if it's like just like a friendly hello, how are you? My name is so and so, or blah blah blah. Like, and they like, it doesn't need to turn into something, but that's an appropriate dynamic. What would not be an appropriate dynamic is to constantly circle around the bar over and over, or even just like now just start staring at them, hoping that they'll look back at you. Right? Like that is not appropriate.
I know, but there's such a fine line between flirting and that. Flirting
is a two-way street.
Okay. Yeah.
Flirting is I'm looking at you, I'm acknowledging your existence, you're looking at me, acknowledging my existence. And then it either passes or someone gets infatuated. When someone gets infatuated, when that infatuation becomes a one-way street, you're on what could be a very slippery slope. And what I'm saying in this particular case, it sounds like, is this guy saw her, was infatuated by her, then basically coveted her every day, seeing her run by, became obsessed, started having fantasies about it. Well, what if she did meet me? Wouldn't she think it's charming? And here's the thing, is that like the movies we watch and the TV shows we watch, they kind of champion stalking as cute.
They reinforce it, yeah.
They reinforce bad behaviors in men.
Yeah.
And so that's what gets championed as like the whatever.
But the thing is though, those are the movies that women swoon over, and that they just are like, oh, I just want that, or...
Well, what women want is to be the priority.
And there's a fine line between being the priority and being the sole focus and complete like obsession.
Yeah. And this is like how almost every case of like intimate partner violence, or I mean, not so much stalking, but definitely intimate partner violence. Well, it starts off with this like over infatuation, love bombing, and quickly turns to controlling, right?
Yes.
It's like, I want you, I want you, I want you, I need you, I need you. Now I have to have you, and I need to control everything that you're doing, because I'm so terrified of losing you that I don't know what I would do with my. And it's like, that's not a healthy emotional dynamic.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. I'm glad we're talking about this.
I'm sorry. So we got off on a tangent there about
to Molly. So she was like, "I'm gonna call 911. Leave me alone. Get away from me." Okay. And
never threaten to punch someone in the face. Just punch them in the face.
Okay.
Remember, like when we were doing that in the session today, I was like, you don't.
Watch out! I'm gonna shoot
I've got a gun. Oh look, no, it's right here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm pulling it out now. No, I'm serious. I'm gonna pull it out. Like dogs bark, right? But they never bark while they're biting. And there's a difference between, like, when a dog is barking, the dog is like, hey, I'm just letting you know I'm here, posturing. But then the dog will start to growl. And the growl is pretty much, you might get one, you might get two. You're not getting three, at least with my dog. But you're either going to be very fast in the attack or you're going to be very fast in the retreat. But you do not want to be slow in the negotiation. Like, when your life is on the line, that is not when you play lawyer.
So, we weren't in Molly's shoes. We cannot judge or anything. We don't even know what happened exactly. But so, instead of saying, we know she was
we don't know what she's going to happen. But it is 100%. Remember, like, when we said, like, just changing up your routine to meet someone would be like a level 1 anomaly? Stopping your car in the middle of a deserted road, getting out, and then jogging alongside someone who you don't know.
Right.
But here's the problem is that in their head, they know them very well, right? And we see this with like celebrity stalking all the time because and I even have like a whole section in my book about it where
they're in my home once a week on TV. I know them. I know everything about them.
Right.
Their life is public.
Right. I know a lot about Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Right. Listen to his podcast, watched Fear Factor, love the way he commentates like UFC fights, how he likes to work out. Like there's like hundreds of thousands of hours of like Joe Rogan footage out there. Yeah. You know how many times Spencer Coursen has been a blip on Joe Rogan's radar? 0 effing times. 0.
So someone who is in Molly's position, warning him, he really didn't have any right to be warned when he was like already at that point, got out of his car, was running alongside of her. Really, you should just not worry and just call 911. Don't like threaten.
Yeah, so in my book, I have one of the safety traps is being too polite.
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
Because it really drives home this, and I think it's different. Like boys are kind of brought up to be like, it's okay to be the aggressor. That's how we know you're a man, right?
Exactly.
Be the alpha, take charge.
Yep.
Sometimes leadership means you have to be mean. Like it's okay. Take charge, be in charge, one in charge. Women are sometimes socialized into, or at least women more than men are socialized into, be complacent, be compliant, be polite, submissive. Go along to get along. And so, but when your life is on the line, your willingness to defend yourself should always be greater than your unwillingness to offend another. And sometimes that's just a matter of being disagreeable. But it's all about giving someone a yes, which is a no to you, is a red flag. You should always be more willing to defend yourself than you are unwilling to offend another. And who cares if you offend a fuck like that? Walk away. That's your power.
I love that. I love that. And I agree. There are so many true crime podcasts that talk about the exact same thing. Like, be weird and be vocal and stay alive, basically. Don't worry about offending someone when it comes to your safety. I love that. Okay, maybe this is a little weird and random, but I want to talk about dating and dating apps and kind of like what advice you would have for a woman who is single, like getting out there dating. Maybe it's a blind date, someone she's never met before. How can I stay safe if I decide to meet that cool Tinder date that I was talking to online? What do I do? How do I stay safe with that? Because there's really no vetting process when it comes to dating apps and stuff. Like maybe they upload their driver's license or something, but there's no sort of like in-person vetting process. And that can be problematic. So what do you think?
If you are a woman, here's how you will know if someone's interested in you. If someone says, "Hey, we should hang out sometime," they're not interested. Yeah, or they want you to send them selfies. Never, ever, ever send a selfie through a dating app. Never send a selfie to someone that you've never met. Not just the data in the picture, but like that person hasn't earned your trust. If someone is interested, whether it's someone you meet in a bar or someone you meet online or someone that you're met on a dating app or some friend of a friend says, "Hey, I think you might like this guy. Let me connect you," or something. If someone's interested, truly interested, a man will make a plan. plan. Hey, I have reservations for sushi on Saturday at 7 o'clock. Would you like to join me? But yes, I'm sorry, that's what men do. Yeah. Boys go, well, yeah, we should hang out sometime. I do not want to hang out like with you and 5 of your friends, okay? At a bar where you're going to do shots and throw up on your shoes. Okay, we can go Dutch for dinner. I'm not like, there should be no, oh, and here's another thing, like, just because like a guy buys you dinner doesn't mean you owe him anything. Okay, there is no expectation. The expectation is that, like, this is something that I would like to do. I'm inviting you to join me. If you would like to come, great. If not, I'm gonna ask someone else. But you get know your own value. The more you allow someone, and I'm speaking as someone who's like consulting, this advice is for women, but the more you allow a guy to string you along, the more he devalues you. If you just say, hey, I don't do hangouts, be a man, make a plan, I swear to God, he's going to come back to you with a plan of action to like wow you off your feet. Even if it's like, and it doesn't need to be like a 5-star, like grandiose, like red flower candy and chocolate dinner. It can be like, hey, do you want to meet at the Starbucks at 5th and Chavez after work on Tuesday? It can be innocent. It can be something that, in fact, your first encounter should be something that's like public and not locked in.
Okay, so let's say 2 people make a plan and they decide to meet up or whatever. Should I tell my family and friends where I'm going? I mean, I should definitely make it public. Should I tell my family and friends the location and make sure someone knows the plan and all of that?
But it should also be somewhere public. Like your first time hanging out shouldn't be a hike in the woods. But like there's nothing wrong with like FaceTiming someone. You know what I mean? Like, well, you know what? Oh, let's have our first time meeting just be a FaceTime. Or just have a virtual like hangout. You know what I mean? Well, I want to see your place. Does he have roommates? Does he have a dog? Like, what's his place look like? Is it creepy? Is it? If he's like, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. Well, then I'm not comfortable meeting you. So many of my friends who like started dating someone they were like, they have a standard, they have a set expectation, and then they start negotiating against themselves because they don't want to reinvest the effort, right? Like I had a friend who started dating someone when she was like 28. She's like, well, if I'm not engaged by 30, I'm breaking up with them. She's 33. They're still together. He's still not engaged. You know why? Because he doesn't have to.
Okay, so let's talk about some more of the things you have in the works right now. Some of the stuff you've got going on and that you would like to talk about.
So I have the book. The business is Coursen Security Group. So one of the reasons I wrote the book was that one of the reasons I started my business was that when I was working for this consulting firm out in Los Angeles, which at the time was considered to be the Secret Service of the private sector. I was protecting CEOs, actors, entertainers, athletes, models, what have you. And then the tragedy at Sandy Hook happened. And both of my parents were teachers. I have family and friends who still teach. And when so many of your family and friends are reaching out to you for help, you want to do everything you can to help keep them protected. Is this going to happen to us? What is our school going to do? Is this, are there going to be copycats? Like, everyone was freaked out. And what I really realized in that moment was that while not everyone will know the luxury of having their own protective detail, every single one of us deserves to be protected. So what I really wanted to do was take that skill set of mine, which was being employed by the top 1%, and make it available for the other 99%. And so I started like writing more articles and started putting out white papers and here's how to look at this, and this is why this is that. And the book ultimately grew as an extension of that, because while not everyone will be able to afford the retainer of someone like me, you also don't need someone like me. Most people, all they really need to keep themselves protected is to have just a practical, honest outlook about what their real vulnerabilities are so that they can put the most practical and most effective safeguards into place. Most people don't need a security detail to move them from point A to point B or to have a residential security team patrolling their house. What they need is a ring cam doorbell and an electronic lock for their front door so that it's closed equals locked, because 85% of home invasions are the result of bad guys coming through the front door. You don't necessarily need a Spencer Coursen, can't afford a Spencer Coursen, but you can afford $25 for 365 pages of protective strategy to help you live your very best life the safest way possible. Then I also have a podcast where I basically do something very similar to what we're talking about right now, and which is very similar to how the book is set up. Here's what happened, here's how it was allowed to happen, here's how you can keep it from happening to you. And then, of course, I also have just conversations with other professionals in the security industry, or who are involved with domestic violence support groups, or who are involved in crisis management teams, just so that you can tune in once a week for 20, 30 minutes and have a real protective takeaway that can help you to ensure the certainty of your safety.
What's your podcast?
It's Coursen's Corner, a protective strategy podcast to help you succeed in staying safe. And all of it is just an extension of that.
Where can people buy the book?
The book is available wherever your favorite books are sold. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. You can go to thesafetytrap.com, and I have all the links right there at the top of the page. My Instagram is at s.coursen. The Safety Trap also has its own Instagram page at The Safety Trap. And thesafetytrap.com, CoursenSecurityGroup.com. If you Google me, I'm Spencer Coursen, the actor. You can save 1,000 lives. You can rescue 1 million people from despair. But if you have one IMDb entry, you're forever an actor. And because when I was consulting on the Zero Dark 30 movie, when they were filming the movie, there was an actual dog on the real raid that the SEAL teams used. And so they had an actor and a dog training in LA for the movie role. But when the dog came to fly over to Jordan, it didn't have the right shots. So the dog got sent back. So we're sitting there in the chow line one day, and Catherine Bigelow, the director, comes up to me and says, "Spencer, you were in the Army, right?" "Yes, ma'am." "How are you with dogs?" "Love dogs." "Great, you're my K9 SEAL." So they had already filmed some of the Navy SEAL raid stuff. So anytime you see the dog jumping onto the helicopter or jumping off the helicopter or walking by the compound, the guy at the other end of that leash is me. And so as a result of that, I wound up getting 3 credits on a Zero Dark 30 movie, once as a military advisor, once as a security consultant, once as a operator dev crew.
Was it a German Shepherd?
It was, yeah. Yeah. It was a Jordanian farm dog.
Oh, wow.
that we put a tactical vest on.
So, Spencer, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I appreciate it, and I have had a blast getting to know you and hanging out with you this weekend. And I just really enjoyed your sessions this year at CrimeCon, and I cannot wait to see what you do next year at CrimeCon.
Kelli, thank you so much. This was great. True pleasure. I'm so glad we finally got to meet at CrimeCon. I'm sorry I did not have a plan for how we were going to meet at CrimeCon. I just did not know exactly what the schedule was going to look like, but I did know for sure we were both going to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out. Thank you again. So that was my interview with Spencer Coursen from Coursen Security Group and author of The Safety Trap. If you're looking for something for Dad, maybe for Father's Day, The Safety Trap will honestly be the perfect gift. He will love it. And it's honestly a great gift for anyone wanting professional insight into how they can make their lives a little bit safer. And I think we can all agree that we could all use a little help in that department. Be sure to follow True Crime IRL on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at True Crime IRL, all one word. And go to truecrimeirl.com for more info and to check out my new merch. That's right, I wore some sweet merch at CrimeCon and a lot of people were wanting to buy it there. Sorry, didn't have it, but it's on the website now, so now you can. So go do that. Go do it right now. And please be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And leave me a 5-star review. It helps a lot and I really appreciate you. This has been True Crime IRL and I'm your host, Kelli BERENS-BRINK. And until next time, do what Spencer Coursen and I would tell you to do. And lock your doors, people. Most of you don't. I know it. We know it. We all know it. But just do it. Lock those doors. Lock them. Bye-bye.